My friends, today's episode is a little bit different. Today's episode of Moneywise is a new little thing that we are calling Moneywise. You see, on this podcast, we interview a ton of people. And as you've noticed, there's trends. And there's trends because a lot of times people come to similar conclusions on different stuff. Like you'll notice that a lot of times people are unhappy after selling their company or they're unhappy retiring. However, what you may also notice is that there's sometimes conflicting advice, meaning people disagree on different topics. And on this episode of Moneywise, today we're going to be talking about tracking your portfolio, meaning literally logging in and checking how much you're worth, checking in maybe daily, weekly, monthly, annually, or even checking at all. Because when you've got millions or even hundreds of millions or billions, a little dip in the market, it can mean a lot of money. And when that nest egg is your post-exit safety net, those dips, they can kind of mess with your head, or at least that's what I think. I think it might mess with your head. That's what we're going to find out if it does or not. So the question that we're focused on today is, what can you do about it? So the first person we're talking to today is Chuck. Chuck sold his company for $2.5 billion, and he told us that his net worth was in the hundreds of millions, which means when the market moves one day, let's say it moves 1 or 2%, he feels it in a big way.
I would lose $1 million or I'd make $1 million. And the reality is in that number, it didn't matter what I lost or made $1 million that day, but emotionally it was like taking over my day. And so I was checking.
But did you feel good when it went up by a few percent and feel bad when it went down a few percent? Because for me, I felt nothing when it went up and I felt miserable when it went down.
I wouldn't say good, but you're like, oh, cool, it's up. Like, oh, sweet. And your attitude was a little bit lighter that day. Then when it was bad, you'd be like, oh no, shoot. Like, to kind of start to freak. And the problem with that is it was dictating my day. And so I finally said to my brothers, to my team, I said, let's get out. Like, I don't want to look at it anymore. I just need to get rid of it. Even if we thought the stock was going to go to the moon, getting out of it emotionally was the best thing that I did. So over the next 6 months, we just started to get out of it. And that was really helpful. That allowed me to just say, no, I'm going to live my life. The money can live on its own with people that I don't need to dictate what's happening or see what's happening. And I can just go about my day and make my decisions. That was super helpful for me.
And so Chuck just lets people handle his investment so he could stay out of it completely. Travis, who's another person that we talked to, had come to a similar conclusion. For context, his net worth, it's around $50 million. Around $25 million of it, half was actually liquid, and the other half was in his company, which means it's illiquid. And like Chuck, he got way too caught up in checking his numbers.
Sam, I was logging in every day being like, what happened? Oh, I made $5,000 today. Oh, I lost $100,000. Oh, I made 100, And we took our kids on a trip. We went to Vegas, did some shopping and stuff. And I didn't check my stocks once. I didn't check the portfolio one time. And it went up. Like, that's when the run happened like crazy last year. And I made like, I don't know, $300,000 or something in that week. And I didn't even check it. And I was like, you know what? I just can't control it. I'm just going to log off and not look at it as often. And that's been awesome.
I don't check. I'll check maybe every 6 months. I mean, like when I go to like wallstreetjournal.com, I can see like, S&P's up 1% today. In my head, I was like, all right,
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds like it's a good day. But I don't log into stuff on a regular basis. I do it when the markets were bad in 22 or 23, whenever that, like we had a really bad year. I didn't log in one time throughout the year.
That's discipline. I wish I was as disciplined.
It's not discipline. It's the opposite, actually. I don't want to do it because it makes me nervous. When it's bad, I feel bad.
Yeah.
If I were disciplined, I wouldn't feel bad looking at it.
Your wife's like, Grumpy Sam walks in the house. Did you check your portfolio?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I just saw like...
It's a sure sign.
Like, oh, fuck, the Fed's not cutting rates. So like, So yeah, I don't look at it. You still look at it occasionally?
No, I used to look at it. I stopped like 9-10 months ago. I stopped. So I'll go meet with my portfolio managers, maybe 3 times a year, mainly talking about, hey, I got some cash buildup. What do we want to do? But, I've decided I can't worry about that. I could just need to focus on my business, my current business, and try to really maximize my value here because I'll have another exit here in the future.
As you heard, I tend to agree that keeping it out of sight, it's the best way to stay sane. I don't check my net worth. Maybe I check it once a month, but sometimes it's once a quarter. But I don't check that often. It just stresses me out, to be honest. But what about Anne Mahlum? She has a totally different take. So Anne had a company called Solid Core that she sold, and she's worth over $100 million, and she loves staying on top of her portfolio. Hold on a second for that.
Frankly, I do read and do a lot of research on it, and I'm buying companies where I feel really confident in the vision and I feel confident in what the earnings per share is. Like, this is not like a, okay, do this, do that. I got into Nvidia last April, and like that's turned out really, really well for me. And my portfolio is up 20+% since last April. Like, I mean, obviously from S&P, it's 20, whatever. Like, I've outdone the S&P by 5 or 6%. And I also, from an expectation standpoint, some people, again, money is an emotional thing. So I'm not telling people to take every emotion out of it, but I look at my portfolio every day so I get comfortable when it goes down and I don't get overzealous when it goes up. And a lot of times they tell you, oh, don't look at it. And I'm like, that's so stupid. I think that's horrible advice, because I want to know that I don't have an emotional reaction when the market goes down. When my account goes down 500 grand, I'm like, it's fine. That's what it's supposed to do. It's been doing that since the beginning of time in the market. It's fine. And it's gotten me more comfortable with actually making bigger bets, strategically calculated bets, and putting more money in.
If you know yourself and mentally you have the ability to build up that tolerance and you can get super comfortable with the fluctuations, maybe checking on a daily basis, maybe that will work for you. Keep in mind that Anne told us in her episode that she obsesses over learning about investing and she reads a ton about it. That's a completely different skill set, in my opinion, than making money. So I think there's a huge difference between starting a company and making money and investing that money and making money. I think those two skill sets, they're really, really different. So unless you're willing to put the same amount of work into understanding how to make money from investing, I think likely, even if you're incredibly wealthy, it's best to just follow what I do and what a lot of other people do, which is invest in something boring and forget about it. And it's way better for me mentally. And it's just, I think, probably better for me to make money because I don't actually touch it. And so I actually truly get compounding growth, but it's just a peace of mind that I have. And so I like using tools like Kubera or Tiller. Kubera is Kubera and Tiller, Tiller. I like using tools like that to keeping track of everything. And I use it to track my net worth, my liabilities, different asset classes, and things like that. And I like it because I don't have to really pay attention to the numbers very often. By the way, those guys are not sponsors of today's episode. I just really like those tools. And another thing that's funny is I think that a lot of people, they think that the wealthy people, they have access to different investments that normal people don't have access to. And maybe that's true, but the way that I invest and the way that a lot of really wealthy people invest, we're talking billionaires on this show, they invest in boring things that everyone has access to, sort of like just index funds and just boring bonds. And they use those things as investments because it's just stress-free and you get a great return. So that's what I think most people should do. And so if you're listening to this, I guess the takeaway is simplify. The takeaway for a lot of people is just don't check your net worth often, but find out what works for you. And when things do go bad, you can't overreact. Markets do what they do. They go up, they go down, and freaking out won't exactly help. And so, God bless on your investing journey. And by the way, if you're an entrepreneur who has made a bunch of money or you want to make a bunch of money, check out my company, Hampton. JoinHampton.com. That's the company that makes this podcast. We talk about money and we talk about business building all the time. Hampton is my online and in real life community. JoinHampton.com. We're building core groups in a bunch of major cities like New York, Miami, LA, Austin. And so if you live in one of those cities or you're in a city that isn't very popular and you still want to check out other entrepreneurs and meet people who have scaled companies to hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars in valuation, check it out. JoinHampton.com. All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. Next week, we're going to have a normal episode and we'll see you then.